Even though I'm not much of a sports guy, I love Megalo Box. It's the real deal. The genuine article. The underdog of the season. Fuck it, just play the thing. MEGALOBOX is an anime series directed by Yo Moriyama and produced by TMS Entertainment, made in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of Ashita No Joe, a manga series that, though obscure in the West, was and still is one of the most beloved series in Japan. Its influence on the world of anime and manga can be felt even in stories made decades after the fact. And it was so popular that after the death of one of its main characters, a public funeral was held in their honor. As a result, MEGALOBOX has quite the legacy to carry forward, and since I haven't read or watched Ashita No Joe or its anime adaptation, I can't say for certain how well it's managed to do so, but I think it's been able to make quite a name for itself anyway. Set in a gritty futuristic landscape riddled with wealth inequality where the world's most popular sport is the titular Megalo Box. A form of boxing which involves the use of exoskeletal gear to enhance a fighter's power, the series follows Junk Dog, later known as Joe, a reckless Megalo Boxer working fixed matches in an underground ring with a cynically blunt business partner Nanbu, looking to find the big leagues. After a chance encounter with Yuri, the top-ranked Megalo Boxer in the world, Joe's told that if he wants to fight him again, he'll have to make his way into Megalonia, a Megalobox tournament hosted by one of the world's leading gear manufacturers, the Shirato Company, and its CEO, Yukiko Shirato, to do so. Eventually, Joe and Nanbu run into Sachio, a young orphan with a knack for information gathering and engineering, and together the trio work to fight their way to the top. Right off the bat, you can feel how harsh this world is through its aesthetics alone. Its art style is heavily influenced by 70s and 80s anime, with its sharp designs and backgrounds rich with detail and texture. From the underground arenas and dusty streets of the unrestricted zone, to the brightly lit stadiums and skyscrapers of the big city. It's a style you don't see often nowadays, but is one that, alongside its hip-hop heavy soundtrack, perfectly complements the show's gritty tone and atmosphere. However, the show was downsampled to give it a rougher and more coarse feel, as if it really was an 80s anime, but it also gives it a blurry quality that's hard to get used to. However, while this may turn some away, if you can get past it, you'll find yourself enthralled by the show's main cast. Joe, Nanbu and Sachio, while on the edge of biting each other's throats out, quickly develop a family-like dynamic. Nanbu's cold and blunt cynicism keeps Joe and Sachio's infectious optimism in check, while Joe's determination and Sachio's attention to detail grow on Nanbu and make him more thoughtful and trusting. Meanwhile, Nanbu and Joe's more experienced and matured outlooks on life help Sachio to work through his own personal struggles. And Joe doesn't really change that much, but he's a likable guy. The relationship between these characters is one that's integral to their growth and whose development through times both good and bad is something you can't help but get invested in. Similarly, Joe's rivals are just as well fleshed out, each with their own unique motivations that, for one reason or another, clash with Joe's and make for some underwhelming fights if I'm being honest. I mean, they have their moments, but they're also littered with low frame rate action and odd editing choices that interrupt their momentum and flow. It's kind of ironic for a boxing show, really. To compensate, however, these fights bank on that aforementioned character conflict to hook you in, usually spending an entire episode or two simply building up the rivalry between Joe and his next opponent before dedicating the next episode exclusively to that match. Take Joe's fight with Aragaki for example. With Aragaki being 17th on the leaderboards, winning a fight against him will let Joe take a massive leap forward in the rankings. But for Aragaki, it's about revenge. He was once Nanbu's apprentice, training to become a Megalo Boxer before he was drafted. Nanbu told him he'd always have a home in his gym, and after getting his legs blown off in an operation that went horribly wrong, Aragaki expected Nanbu to be waiting for him, only to find his gym closed down and Nanbu nowhere to be seen. He felt abandoned and began to blame Nanbu for what happened to him. Years later, however, after finding a new trainer and learning about Nanbu's new apprentice, he takes the opportunity to fight Joe so he can destroy him. And as Joe quickly learns, that is no small threat. Aragaki has left almost all of his opponents in critical condition after their fights. For Joe, avoiding Aragaki means losing his best opportunity to get ahead in the rankings, but going through with it means he risks getting so badly injured he might not be able to fight in Megalonia even if he does win. But for Aragaki, this fight is a chance for him to find some closure to the trauma he's been through. And throughout the match, we see their conflicting desires clash and collide in a fight of pent-up emotions that feels impactful. Though its fights are visually lackluster, it makes up for it with the strong emotional and thematic narrative that underlie these battles. Which is part of the reason I find Joe's rivalry with Yuri to be so fascinating. Of course, rivalry is a bit of a strong word considering they only fight like twice, but still. From a visual and symbolic standpoint, they're as different as you can get, from their hair, to their clothes, to their physiques, to their gear or lack thereof, to their respective color palettes, and even down to their lifestyles. Yuri is the top dog, the #1 Megalo Boxer in the world, living in the lap of luxury and who got a chance to get to where he is thanks to Yukiko Shirato. While Joe is the underdog, fighting below rock bottom in fixed matches, living paycheck to paycheck, and who has to fight tooth and nail just to get a chance of fighting in a real ring. They are polar opposites, but at the same time are more alike than they realize. Both are characters with a strong love of their sport who feel they're stagnating. Joe stuck fighting fake matches he know he could easily win if given a chance, and Yuri left alone at the top with no one who can challenge him. Both are used by those around them for their own gain, with Yukiko using Yuri to show off the power of Shirato's integrated gear, and Joe being used by Nanbu to earn money and keep Fujimaki, the Yakuza gang leader organizing the aforementioned fixed fights, off his back. And by Sachio, who wants Joe to get to Megalonia as an act of revenge against Shirato. And after their initial run-in, both end up being driven by a desire to fight against the other, no matter the cost. They are two sides of the same coin and develop a mutual respect for each other and their respective skills as a result. They are two incredibly skilled fighters looking for a genuine challenge, something they can only find in each other. It gives their rivalry an air of authenticity as it develops, because you know that there's no hidden strings with these two. They fight for the simple joy of it. Which brings me to the show's ending. Now, though I've already delved into mild spoiler territory in this video, for those who are trying to catch up or who maybe want to check out the series after hearing me ramble about it, jump to the timestamp on screen to skip over this discussion. The spoiler phobe's gone? Okay, Nanbu was the father all along. Anyway, this ending is one of those things that people either love or hate, and personally, I just found it to be a bit meh. It felt very anticlimactic in a lot of ways, cutting off the fight mid-punch and not telling you who won until the very end of the episode. Add on to that the fact that the fight itself has a lot of the same problems the show's other fights have, as well as that after 12 episodes of hinting that someone's gonna die, no one died. Well, except for Yuri's career, but still, it just felt underwhelming. But as an ending, I think it perfectly encapsulates everything the show's about. The story's always had a strong focus on people chasing their dreams, with Joe wanting to break free from his typical day-to-day and fight in the big leagues. So confident in his abilities that when he does go legit, he does so without any gear. Which seems like a weird loophole to ignore in a sport based around using gear, but whatever. Yet, at every turn, his dreams are dashed. At the start, Nanbu tells him to just keep his head down, that Megalonia isn't a place for frauds like them. In his first official fight, he freaks out, afraid to get close to his opponent in case he loses, thinking his skills might not be enough. And in a sport where the technology you use can make or break your career, are they? Can they withstand the onslaught of an AI-controlled set of gear? Can they impress the committee that chooses the fighters for Megalonia based on their own agendas rather than the merits of those fighters? Does it even matter when big league fights can be rigged just as easily as underground ones? Joe's struggle is one that I think many can identify with, because he chases his dreams in a world that praises hard work but rewards manipulation, where the quality of one's work doesn't matter as much as one's ability to use spectacle and controversy to strengthen their relevancy in a system that, despite condemning such things, still gives success to those who use it. Though the series hammers home the idea that there's no replacement for raw skill and hard work, it's fully aware of how much of a struggle it is, whether you're pursuing a sport, an art, or another passion, to navigate these minefields whose factors for success are completely out of your control. This is what Joe and Yuri's final fight is all about. It's a match with no gears, no committees, no arbitrary bullshit. It's just two guys with a lot of skill duking it out. They aren't fighting to win, a point made clear by the fact that we don't learn who won in the match itself. They're fighting for the sheer love of it. They know that this is their one chance to face off against someone who can really challenge them, and they take the opportunity without hesitation. And even after their careers come to an end, Yuri by force and Joe by choice, they're satisfied with how it ended. Despite all the shady business surrounding their industry and their respective journeys through it, their decision to chase their dreams is one they don't regret. Furthermore, Joe's story of some guy with no name from nowhere becoming one of the most well-renowned boxers in the world inspires others to do the same, with Nanbu even establishing a gym to foster the talent and skill of any who want to follow in his footsteps. If this average Joe can do it, anyone can. Ha! Get it? Cause his name's Joe and... anyway. Sure, the final episode may have been underwhelming, but it wraps up the story in a way that hits home everything it's been trying to say. Also, just as a side note, I think Joe's 7 matches and 7 wins are a little telling. In Japan, there's a festival known as Tanabata, or Star Festival, which celebrates the meeting of the star deities Orihime and Hikoboshi, who, to butcher the original legend, are lovers separated from each other by the Milky Way, who can only meet each other on the 7th day of the 7th month of the lunisolar calendar. Now, maybe I'm just stretching this here, but I think it's a nice detail that works with that whole once-in-a-lifetime vibe to Joe and Yuri's relationship. But also, well, I think the fanfic writers know what to do. Of course, for as much praise as I have for the show, I do have my problems. Some I've already mentioned, like the lackluster fights and odd editing choices, but I also think the show tends to overdo some things, especially its motifs and foreshadowing, which can get jarringly in your face. As well, it has a horrible tendency to explicitly spell out details that the context of the story or the visuals of the scene beforehand have already established quite clearly. Nevertheless, the show tells an impactful and engaging narrative that had me hooked from the get-go. Though flawed, Megalobox is a great show. Aesthetically, it's a series unlike anything else you're bound to find nowadays, and is chock full of well-developed and relatable characters, whose interpersonal dynamics, relationships, and rivalries are unrelentingly earnest and in many ways inspiring. But most of all, it's a story that, while acknowledging the pitfalls and problems that come with it and the many ways it can go wrong, shows how important it is to take every opportunity you can to live a life without regret. To seize the day, because you never know what tomorrow might bring. And yeah, those are my thoughts. My god, this video was a nightmare to put together. The first draft was 6,000 words alone, but I think I made it work. Hopefully. This is also the kind of format I want to take the fun to watch videos in, with these longer, more detailed breakdowns that can range from rambling about movies and shows and series I really like to breaking down entire franchises. Of course, I'll still do the short reviews and first impression stuff, but I'd like to save those as quickies to put out when I need more time to work on bigger videos. As for me, this kind of format is just more fun to work with. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you agree, disagree, how you feel about this new format, how you felt about Megalobox, it was my personal favorite this season, what your favorite fight was, etc. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my last video, where I explained how My Hero Academia's use of horrific injury strengthens its story. Or check out my video on Digimon the movie and the lessons it taught me about responsibility and the internet. And if you've enjoyed this and want to see more, then be sure to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to come fly with me. You can also follow me on Twitter for more updates about this channel and other stuff, and hopefully, I'll see you later.